Nancy Kulp's final interview confirmed what we all suspected, and what she finally revealed changed how fans would see a television classic forever. For decades, audiences knew her as the sharp, elegant, and ever-loyal Miss Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, the poised voice of reason in a world of oil money and country charm. But behind that perfectly delivered politeness was a woman whose real story was far more layered than the characters she portrayed on screen. Born Nancy Jane Kulp in Pennsylvania in 1921, she wasn't raised in Hollywood glamour. She grew up in a disciplined, academically driven household that valued intellect over image. Journalism became her first passion, leading her to what is now Florida State University, where she sharpened the communication skills that would later define her unmistakable on-screen presence. But before the lights, before the laughter, and before the scripts, there was war. During World War II, Kulp joined the U.S. Navy Reserve as part of the Waves program, rising to the rank of lieutenant junior grade. It was an experience that instilled in her resilience, discipline, and independence, qualities she would carry into an industry that didn't always welcome strong-minded women. By the 1950s, she had quietly begun building a career in Hollywood. Appearing in films like Shane and the Three Faces of Eve, she developed a reputation not for glamour, but for intelligence, wit, and timing. Then came 1962. Her casting as Miss Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies made her a household name. With her dry humor and understated warmth, she became one of the most beloved characters on television. Emmy nominations followed, and America fell in love with her refined charm. But fame came with a cost. Behind the scenes, things weren't always as harmonious as they appeared on screen. For years, fans sensed that the Clampett family's off-camera reality didn't quite match the laughter they delivered each week. And in what would become one of her final candid interviews, Kulp finally addressed it. Speaking later in life, she openly admitted that working alongside her co-star Buddy Ebsen was emotionally difficult. According to Kulp, the warm, paternal presence audiences saw as Jed Clampett didn't reflect the authority he carried behind the cameras. She described an environment where hierarchy ruled, where individuality wasn't always welcomed, and where she often felt tolerated rather than respected. What began as professional tension gradually became something more personal, something she carried quietly for decades. Still, she remained professional. She showed up. She delivered. And she helped create television history. Even after the show ended in 1971, Kulp continued acting in series like The Mary Tyler Moore Show, The Love Boat, and Fantasy Island, though she was forever linked to Miss Hathaway. In the 1980s, she stepped into an entirely different spotlight: politics. Running for Congress in Pennsylvania, she proved that her commitment to public service hadn't ended with the Navy, even if the election didn't go her way. Then, in 1990, came a diagnosis that would quietly begin her final chapter: cancer. After undergoing difficult chemotherapy treatments, Nancy Kulp passed away on February 3, 1991, in Palm Desert, California, at the age of 69. Her final interview wasn't about bitterness. It was about honesty. Because behind the laughter of reruns, behind the perfectly timed punchlines, were real people, real struggles, and stories that didn't always fit the script. And in the end, Nancy Kulp simply wanted one thing: for the truth to exist.